Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Well, hello there. Remember me? It's Gemma, and this is episode 297 of the Cognitive Podcast, the new series that is. This one is called Summer Stuff. I apologize because, yes, I did not record last week. I meant to. And I got caught up in the summer stuff. So I will tell you some of it. If you look in the show notes, the picture at the top is me looking really pretty happy. I'm wandering around Tehachapi, California at their mountain festival. I'm wandering through all the vendors' stuff in the street fair. And I was very happy because after many hours of this, I was walking along and there was a feather on the ground from what looks like a great horned owl, from what I can tell. So there I am wearing it in my bandana. And I eventually went over to Red House, which was founded as a Native American restaurant run with a Native American sense of being. The owner has backed down on that just a little bit. I'm not sure why, because he's done really well and he's got 3 restaurants in the region now. He's really doing well. But anyway, I wanted to be careful that I wasn't kind of poaching a little bit on the culture by wearing a feather that way. So when I went to Red House later that evening, I left it among their vines on their little porch as an offering. But there it is, my beautiful feather. I think that's about the most amazing feather I have found in my wanderings. And I hope the local ravens don't get offended when I say that, because I have found quite a few of the feathers from our local ravens left for me as gifts. So there I am wearing my beautiful owl feather. Your comments are very welcome. Please feel free to leave them on the blog at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com or over on our group on Ravelry. All the links I'm going to talk about are in the show notes, and most of the comments go into Ravelry, which leads me into the warm thanks department. Warm thanks to DC Elaine Knits, who noticed that I didn't podcast last week and said we were all wondering, and I'm thinking, where is this we? Like, where are they posting this? But okay, they were wondering if I was okay. And yes, I'm alive and well, Elaine, and I really do appreciate, all kidding aside, your concerns. But last week was so tedious, and I was doing the show notes, and I got caught up in going up to Tehachapi for the 5K. And I got caught up in that planning, and I just did not record. I kept saying, I'll do that tomorrow, I'll do that tomorrow. And I kept not doing it tomorrow, which was kind of embarrassing, but there you go. However, I at least have some material for this week. And Turbo Gal, thank you for noticing our anniversary and wishing us well. I appreciate all the best wishes I got for our anniversary in the last couple of episodes. I really do appreciate the kindness of that comment, particularly when you talk about liking the updates on the beloved son and the beloved husband. It does mean a lot to me. It's weird when you do this kind of podcast. You know, half of it is a private journal, half of it is your knitting journal, half of it is my professional stuff. So, you know, it's 3 halves of a whole. And you never quite know whether you're screaming into the universe or people are actually hearing it. And I cannot tell you how much I appreciate the comments. Mostly I'm getting them on Instagram as well as on the Ravelry group, and they really are appreciated. Finally, I want to thank my communities on Finch, on Reddit, on the ground in the Santa Clarita and Antelope Valleys, and in this group, You can see that both my burbs have reached the 500 adventures completed mark. They were both in the Galapagos because normally I make them go someplace for about 10 days and then I move them along because I like them to keep visiting all the places. But this summer I felt like they should just have a vacation on the beach. One of them has now finished the Galapagos and has moved on to the Alps. The other is finishing her stay there. So I'm just letting them enjoy the beach as much as I can. But if you're not going to be on the beach in the summer, you might as well be hiking in the Swiss Alps. That's what I say. Meanwhile, you can see the information for CFR 12. The information is in the link in the show notes. Please let us know if you are coming. Yes, I still need to go and update that, but yes, there is great news because Laser Sheep is coming. I have yet to contact Oink. And also Jasmine Knitmore is coming down. And we have the wonderful Burbank crowd, and they have some stuff they are working on for classes. So this should be pretty exciting. Remember, it is on November 7th, 2026. And guys, what is that? September? 90 days away. I mean, it's time to plan. Please also remember that we are doing the Bloodroot Tea fashion show. So everybody pray that I actually finish my Bloodroot Tea. I am on the last stretch. And I'm having a really good time with it. I thought I was going to run out of yarn. And that was slowing me down. And I am, but I ordered a skein of Sedets from Malabrigo Rios in their sock weight, and it's perfect. It's a really good match. So I'm blending that as I go. So I'm really, really happy about this. So yes, I'm hoping we will do knitted tees and summer fashions in knitting. Not accessories so much as straight up sweaters that you wear or blouses. Okie dokie. Meanwhile, what's on my hooks and needles? You're all wondering. Well, I did a stash toss, and this is really good because I want to keep doing this because I want to get rid of old odds and ends of yarn that I'm not going to use. And now that I know about remainders down in Pasadena, that's where this stuff is going. So I was doing a stash toss, and I found 3 skeins of purple hand spun. All of them are bulky. All of them involved some fiber from Lisa Souza mixed with other things. So I ended up with a skein that was straight up wool in the Black Bowie colorway. And then I had one that was blended with cashmere and silk. And then I had one that was blended with cashmere, silk. I feel like there's one I'm missing here. No, one is just, sorry, it is silk, wool, and camel. And then the second one is cashmere, silk, and wool. So you can see the pictures. The first one, the silk, wool, and camel, came out just exactly what I wanted. And you can see me wearing it with one of my crocheted tops under it, in fact. And I love that one, and I'm definitely going to keep that, I suspect. I am using a pattern from Lion Brand Wool, the Country Cotton Shawl. This is a tried and true favorite. It's originally meant to be done in cotton string, and you hold 2 strings together, and you use a fairly small hook, probably like a 4.0 or 4.5 millimeter. What would that be? Like an E or an F? But I did it in bulky using a K, which is 6.5 millimeter. And I really love it. The first one just came out great, and you can see me wearing it, as I said. The second one came out just a little bit smaller, which makes me a bit unhappy. So you can see me wearing it tied around my neck, but it really is in its glory as a bandana. So there's a picture of me wearing it there, horrifying myself by seeing how gray my hair looks when I wear it down. Doggone it, because from the front I see it as blondish, ashy blonde. So everybody just pretend I'm still blonde, okay? But anyway, there are the 2 finished shawls. So that changed the stash toss to 27 skeins in and 85 skeins out. Very, very nice about that. I was going to just pack those up and take them to remainders, but the reason I didn't, oh, the craziness of things, is that it was so hot I couldn't see myself making that long trek by public transit to get up to remainders in the north part of Pasadena, almost Altadena. So instead I just did quick crochet palette cleansers, and both of those shawls are the same pattern, because I have to tell you, the country cotton shawl pattern from Lion Brand is so easily memorized, and it's based on a pattern of double crochet 1, chain 1, and every 6th row you just do a row of double crochets. This is so mindlessly easy to remember, so it is a great pattern to have in your head for moments like this where you just want to use up an oddball skein. So there they are. Okay. Meanwhile, those are finished, in progress. Like I said, 27 skeins in, 85 out. And what did we do this week? I worked a little on the Bloodroot tee, and I also got serious, and you can see a picture of me being serious, on the Oceanside top. This is based on the same pattern that I am wearing in the first picture of my finished projects there, the one that's all the beautiful sunset colors. That's the exact same pattern. It is the color block sweater from Peyton's, and they do it, as I've said before, they do it in cotton. Don't do that. It just sags and drags. But if you do it in a nice acrylic, and if you do it in a half double crochet, works perfectly. However, down in the Oceanside top, I am doing it in sock yarns, and I am doing it on a 3.0 millimeter, which is between a C and a D in American hooks. And it is taking forever, but it is so pretty. And you can see I've finally gotten onto the top section, which is about 10 inches, and it includes the flutter sleeves. So you do those bottom 2 sections, in this particular case, and then you tie it off, and then you chain. And again, I adjusted it based on the hook size. So in this one I was chaining, I think I chained 15 to get 13, or I chained 16 to get 14. And you chain that, and then you pick up the stitches along the top of the finished part you've got so far. And when you get to the other side, you chain out again, and then you turn around and come back all the way across. So now you are adding the material for the flutter sleeves. This could not be more easy if you tried. And essentially, I think I did 16 inches in those 2 solid colors, or semi-solid colors, and then it'll be 10 inches. So that will take me into a 4th skein. I am experimenting to see how much sock yarn I can use on this puppy. I will be fully using up those 2 bottom colors, and probably that 3rd color. The 4th color, I imagine quite a bit less, about half that skein, if that much. So this is a nice way to take out, 3.5 skeins of your sock yarn. It does take forever. It is really fun. It's a great stash burner, but it takes time. The original pattern was, I believe, for DK weight yarn, and I had adapted it for sport weight, and I'm adapting it again here for fingering weight. And if you go into my notes on Ravelry for these patterns, and the links are in the show notes, you can see my decisions about hooks and numbers of stitches and chains, etc. So I'm having a good time with that, and it is coming along, and we shall see how that does. The Bloodroot, I am continuing just down the body now. It's got to be, I think, 13 or 14 inches down from the armpits, and I think I'm about 5-6 inches down. It really is popcorn knitting, but it really does take forever. Everything else is on pause, including all the quilt squares and everything else, and no spinning. So let's get on to a strategy. And I think I really wanted to talk about the internet a little bit. I don't know if I'm capable of doing anything a little bit, but just pretend I am. Because I was getting myself all down on the internet, and then realized I was treating the internet as representative. And you have to remember, it isn't. If you follow too much of the internet, first of all, it will turn itself, thanks to the algorithms, into an echo chamber of whatever you're interested in. This is actually a good thing, because you're there to have fun. That was the whole point here. Okay, but a lot of us have begun using it for more serious things like social organizing, which is great, and picking up the news. The problem with that last one is if you are in one political headset, that's all you're going to see. thanks to the algorithm. And it's hard to get a balanced view. So I would tell you, be very careful when you're using the internet for news, because you are screening out accidentally, by virtue of the algorithms that guide your particular accounts, you're screening out accidentally all the other side's news. So you're not getting a very balanced account. Now, I don't mind that too much, because the news in America right now is a disaster. The media is a disaster because the right-wing oligarchs are buying it. So it's getting harder and harder to find reliable stuff. Okay, fine. I mean, I need the encouragement every now and then to believe that there are still people out there who can think critically. However, this shows up in a lot of other ways. For example, I found a guy who I quite like who talks about this fantasy thing going on, the male loneliness epidemic. This is, of course, a fantasy. This is something the internet created and feeds, and it leaves room for real jerks like Andrew Tate and his brother to feed on the insecurities of young men who don't know better. But no, I don't believe there's a male loneliness crisis. However, by supporting that particular theme, younger men are getting violence against women normalized in a really unhealthy way. And that's only going to get worse. That as women respond to it, women are going to get normalized this idea that men are completely unreliable, etc. Yes, I would choose the bear. There is no question about it. But we just have to be careful that we are encountering the other sexes, and I mean all of them, in real time. Not just in this rarefied echo chamber environment, okay? And yes, there is real research out there. Too much doom scrolling depresses you. And let me tell you something. As a clinical psychologist, I can tell you that just from meeting patients. I have had patients, and yes, it's always male, which bothers me enormously, say to me, I don't need to go outside. I don't need to exercise. I have the internet. I don't do that outdoor stuff, etc. Well, no. I mean, unless you like having diabetes when you're 25 and you want a heart attack at an early age and you want to be morbidly obese and you want to be depressed because you're not getting vitamin D in your skin. This is one thing, and I think it's about gaming more than anything else, and it worries me. This is a thing. However, at the same time, I only see males doing this. I don't see it in young women. Having said that, the people I meet the most are not representative. They are people who are self-identified as struggling or sick. So again, yes, I'm only seeing this in young men, but that doesn't make it normal in young men. It just seems to be more common there. You have to be really careful. I can't use my patient caseload to normalize all people, just like I can't use what I see on the internet as normal in the world around me. And yes, this is why you should all send me your pictures and write bright things to me on Instagram and all that stuff, because I sometimes need to be forcibly dragged out of this world. But the point of all this is you need to remember the internet is not representative. You can't say most of the world is on Facebook or Reddit or Twitter or name one. You can't go there for that. Now, of course, having said that, the obvious counter to that is you need to go outside. You need to go hiking. You need to get fresh air. You need to pump your body to stay healthy. You need to get vitamin D in your skin. But you need to meet people in real time to keep you from this sort of perspective that the internet is telling you the truth and represents the whole world. It was a very interesting thing to go up to Tehachapi and see it again in real time and see who was running and see real people and make jokes and talk to people at the craft fairs. It was a really good refresher to see what people are like in real time, breathing real air. Having said that, oh shoot, yes, I'm still bike desking. I did not do it today because my legs are a bit stiff after Saturday. Today, by the way, is Monday, August 17th, 2026, and it's 4:48 p.m. I was really not ready to run the mountain gallop. When has that ever stopped me? Most of my career. But this time I said, no, I really like this race. I know the course pretty well, such as it is, and I want to go do it. And you can see my victory picture of me holding up my medal. I did do it. And you can see my favorite stretch, which is across this pedestrian and bike trail that runs across just open space at the edge of downtown Tehachapi. And it's always just a beautiful view, and I've probably put that picture there in some version for the last 4 or 5 years. That is not me running, by the way. I'm taking the picture. But I'm just enjoying myself. So how did the mountain gallop go, you may ask? Well, not as well as I would have liked. All week long, I was talking myself down from it because I didn't feel like my legs were strong enough. Well, what wasn't strong enough was my breathing. But I got there, and the weather was blessedly cool in the morning. It was in the 50s. So this was perfect running weather for this. And I got onto the course, and I took a big inhale of albuterol, my asthma inhalant, just to make sure I didn't have a problem. Well, let me tell you, that was a great idea. Because I get onto the course, and there's this guy, and he's trying to be positive, but he's basically heckling runners. And I made the mistake of cracking a joke at him, and then he followed me and wouldn't leave me alone. So I got rid of him after, a painful few minutes, because he said, oh, where is everybody going when they turn? Are they going to the bike trail? Tehachapi is full of bike trails. I just said, I think they're going that way, over to the field. He said, I have to go help more people. Yeesh. He went away, and that's where it kind of hit me. I just got harassed in a race, and I had a bleemin', that was me trying to say both bloody and blooming. I had a bloomin' asthma attack. Yep, right there at probably, half a mile in. So I did have to stop and walk and suck albuterol, but I was okay because I'd already sucked albuterol. That's why I'm really happy. My lungs could not hit crisis point, but I was definitely having an attack. So I had to run the rest of this, and that was fine. I still did do pretty reasonable time, all things considered. No, I'm not going to tell you because it's still kind of embarrassing. Yes, I could have walked it in the same amount of time, but I finished. No DNF, did not finish. I finished. I have a medal. It's 3 miles no matter what speed you do it. What was a little bit on the downside, the weather was absolutely perfect. The race was very undersubscribed because with our current economy, people really can't afford to put the money into just buying a t-shirt and a medal for a morning out with their friends. It was really obvious. The numbers were really down. I got to the finish line. There was no cheering. I got so disgusted. I was running down the ramp yelling, what is this, a dead finish line? Come on, let's have some cheering here. And people got embarrassed and started cheering because, did I mention, I have no shame. And I want cheering. Man, I'm 65 going on 66. When I get to that ramp, you bloomin' cheer for me. But I had a great time. I really did. I went back to the hotel, had a little breakfast, changed my clothes and showered, not necessarily in that order. And, well, I will talk about what else I did while I was there. I had a wonderful weekend, though, and I had a race that was successful. So the next race coming up is the Be the Light, and that's in Santa Clarita after dark. And I'm hoping my son will join me. He's a little bit out of shape, but he is 20 years old. I mean, he can probably do a fake run and do it. That will be on September 26th, so I have time to get my legs back under me, and more important, I have time to get some cool mornings in so I can run. And after that, you can see I've got the Santa Clarita Marathon 5K in November. I am looking at the Hot Cocoa Run up in Tehachapi also in November. I think it's November 20th. The debate is that's going to be cold up there. I have to remember, they have cold up there, which we don't really have in Santa Clarita. All right, then the Oceanside 5K is coming up in November. In the fluffy books, I finally finished The Violin Maker's Secret, and I do really recommend it. I finished The Devil's Novice. I finished The Raven in the Foregate, which I kind of liked a lot. I didn't like it originally when I'd read it years ago. I like it a lot more because it's about that kind of clergyman who has forgotten what his job is and is really into his own holiness. So what am I listening to right now? I am listening to The Hermit of Eitan Forest, and that is very far into the Cadfael corpus. I think I'm 13 or 14 books in now, so I'll be running out of those soon. Those of you, I'm not mentioning any names, who are Wooster and Jeeves fans, take it easy. I've got a few in the list in front of them. In terms of reading, the author of The Retired Assassin's Guide just put out a short story, which I read today, which is, I believe, The Retired Assassin and the Kittens. And it is hilarious as these things go. It's not what I thought it would be, but it is fascinating because the assassin, Dante, meets his match, and you're expecting a story about how the kittens are kind of outdoing him, and it turns out that's not who's doing it. And his solution to having a litter of baby animals is very, very funny, and I deeply love this series. So that's The Retired Assassin and the Kittens. It's a short story, and I recommend it. Something I really like, stash tossing. Felt really, really good to go in there, to find that hand spun, to decide to donate it, and then to decide not to donate it, and then to make it into things. One of the great things I got out of the craft fair, the vendors up at Tehachapi, was all these people doing crocheted stuff. And theirs is very good, but mine is better. But I took a lot of pictures of what they were making and what they were charging. And the emphasis was, I can make this fast, so they're using big yarns, usually cheap, and they're not charging enough, but they made some very, very nice stuff. And I thought, my shawls are going to fit in there just fine. I also like Homey Days, which is what's been going on the last 2 weeks. I've really been puttering and continuing to work on the cleaning and decluttering that I started on my vacation. Now, I came home from Tehachapi thinking, I'm going to walk into my study and see just how bad it looks. Exact opposite happened. I walked in and saw how good it looks. Yes, there's a lot of clutter and a lot of project bags that need to be finished, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? It was great to walk in. It looked reasonably clean. Everything is pushed to the edges. It is a studio as well as a study. So I have to say, I just enjoy coming home and seeing the change I'm making. I'm enjoying just little puttering projects. Yes, there's always more. When you live in a house that's fairly small with 3 people, there's always more work you can do. But I have to say, I have been giving myself a lot of time this summer just to putter around. I'm really grateful for my vacation time because it's one of the few vacations I've had where I really came out of it feeling like it had made a big difference, that I was deeply refreshed, I was much better at my job, and I got a lot of travel in, and I got a lot of cleaning in, and that my life was meaningfully different as a result. So yes, something I really like, it's a little humble this week, stash tossing, days at home, and just puttering around. Okay, I still have the links for antifreeze and for the AI resist list information if you want that. One of these days I will sit down and move them into my overall social issues links collection, but I haven't gotten there. Now, put a lid on it. Last week I was so boring that I thought, I have nothing, so I will just dig into my recipes. Coincidentally, last week, not my Tehachapi week, but the week before it, I guess that's really 2 weeks ago as I record this, I realized that I needed to make a lot of things, and I also found one of my pint jars that fits, wide mouth jar, fits a screw-on lid that I have. Alright, so I started making a whole bunch of things, and I put the recipes in the show notes this week. So I continue to carry Ketorade because you need to have it in the summer. And it is a 5-minute fix. I don't use the juice of half a lemon, I use bottled lemon juice. Okay, but everything else I'm using exactly as you see it there. If I don't have enough flavor-free sparkling water, I will use part of a can of bubbly. I don't care that bubbly and all the other drinkable, for me, sparkling waters, that is, they don't have sugar and they don't have artificial sweeteners in them at all, those all disappear very nicely into Ketorade. I also continued the custard in the Instant Pot recipe because I just think it's great and I think you should have it. But then I started talking about how do you do iced tea by cold brew. And for me, I have a pitcher that has an infuser in it. You can also use a tea ball or a tea bell. That is what you put in a teapot when you're using leaves instead of a bag. But I would look for one of these pitchers with an infuser. I believe Plum Deluxe sells them. I bought mine in a tea shop that no longer exists. I believe in the Del Mar Shopping Plaza. But at any rate, herbal tea in the summer is one of the great delights. My favorites for that, watermelon mint and cinnamon pear, both from Plum Deluxe. And I do in a pitcher that is usually about 1 liter, I will put in about 8 to 10 drops of liquid stevia for the sweetener. Just put it in the infuser in your fridge and just let it brew for a day in your fridge. This is so easy. I mean, this takes no energy. It just takes some tea leaves and some stevia. It goes a long way, and I highly recommend it. It's a nice way to replace the cost of all the bubbly drinks and the canned things like Diet Coke, Diet Pepsi, whatever. I also give you my precious recipe for iced coffee, which I make in a pint jar with a screw-on lid. This is mindless. I use instant coffee without shame. Pick your favorite instant coffee. Just make sure you like the flavor. And again, I use an eyedropper with my liquid stevia. Half a dropper is probably about 6 drops. And I will use hot water. It doesn't have to be boiling. And I will fill the jar to roughly 3/4, and then I let it cool. And then I add heavy cream to it and put it in the fridge. Yeah, you can see the recipe right there. And then there it is, my precious egg salad recipe. This one has come up this year. I made it up, and I really like it. Please, when you're making this, use a good quality mayonnaise that does not use seed oil. Use an olive oil or an avocado oil mayonnaise. Be careful, commercial brands will call it an avocado oil because they use some avocado oil in it, but then they use sunflower or safflower seed. That stuff is not good for you. Please look for the stuff that is nothing but healthy oil, in this case, olive oil or avocado oil. I use for the mustard, I often use just plain golden mustard. But if you like Grey Poupon, don't let me stop you. Now, for me, it's really important that you get something savory in there. I just discovered Plurk, which is made from organ meats of animals, so vegans, no. But I will chop a dill pickle into my egg salad, or I will add a dash of Plurk. I've even been known to go crazy and use both. I also use a sweet paprika in my egg salad. You could use a hot one. I think it would probably work just great. Now, I mash it all together with a tatty beetle, as we called it in Scotland, or a hand potato masher. But let me tell you, if you've cooked everything through, stir it up, whack it around with a long-tined fork, you're great. And finally, I talk about homemade keto ice cream, Rebel ice cream, which was keto ice cream that makes my sugar jump through the roof, so I can't eat it. Rebel has declared bankruptcy. I'm really sorry. Now, you can make good keto ice cream in a number of ways. Search the internet. Currently, I use Keto Chow. And all it is you make a serving of Keto Chow and you freeze it in the freezer. And then I run it through a Ninja ice cream maker. I use 2 runs through it. On the second run, I add a little bit of heavy cream just to soften it up. All right, on to the blather. Well, we've been doing a lot of it, haven't we? 2 weekends ago, basically I spent Saturday with my son. He wanted to go down to the Science Museum. He is going down there and checking because he wants them to open the shuttle display. And he's been waiting for them to announce when they would do it. They finally announced, I believe, in November. There's a lovely pic of him sitting in the Amtrak part of the Glendale station. Hey, he's on his phone. What do you want? He's 20. But anyway, there he is. And we really just went down and hung out. He went down to the museum. I went down to the Galleria. I had a few errands to run. I can't remember what I was doing. But I met him there, and we had lunch at Kura with the conveyor belt sushi. And I basically spent a huge amount of time knitting. I just sat in the Starbucks and enjoyed myself. On Sunday I puttered, and you can tell. I was making all the recipes and entering them here. I was listening to Brother Cadvale. I was crocheting, not knitting. And by that point on Sunday too, I was washing all my clothes, and I realized there was going to be no train service to the Antelope Valley this past weekend. And fortunately, that was the weekend of the race in Tehachapi, which is really, really good, because I was serious about maybe I don't want to do that race anymore. It's a long way to go. To which my husband said, "You do this every year, you know, and then you have a great time." Yeah, yep, once again, yep. So I spent last week working on getting myself to Tehachapi and seeing a boatload of patients, because my job decided to up my caseload just a tiny bit, which was actually reasonable, and I'm okay with it, to be honest, because the money isn't going to hurt. And also, I take a lot of elderly and disabled patients, and they tend to do kind of wildcat, getting sick or having a problem or missing. So, I don't make the money off it that I could, because it's hard to penalize them if they get sick on you within an hour of your session. So I realized, I should actually add some hours to my schedule just to bump up my income a bit. And I don't really mind. It's not real noticeable in my caseload, but it does take work, because you have to do the intakes and you have to do some initial paperwork. So that meant last week I was busy with that, bringing my caseload up to par, and also thinking, how do I want to do Tehachapi? As it turns out, I did it very, very well, because the hotel I like to use up there has gone to an all-suite hotel, and it was prepaid, so of course I'm going to go. So Thursday morning I go up to Tehachapi, and I pick up my race packet, and I lost my mind. I just realized I've been too stressed and too depressed, and I really was depressed. I mean, I'm not just talking low mood. I really was leaning towards the clinical end of it. And I said, you know what I'm doing? I'm taking the day off. And I did. And it was such a good idea that I probably will do it next year when I go up. And I just phoned in sick. And then I went to Tehachapi. I settled into my beautiful suite, which they did have ready. Usually it's not ready when I get there. And then I went over and I picked up my t-shirt. The t-shirt's pretty good. I must say this race has a history of rather less aesthetically pleasing t-shirts. This one's pretty good. It's primarily black, and it has a sort of mustard and beige pattern on it, and it looks better than it's looked in previous years. So that was really nice. And then I just walked around downtown Tehachapi. And those of you who have been to the Cognitive Fiber Retreat will remember Tehachapi from the days we used to have it up there. Well, Tehachapi's become sort of a retirement town now. The population looks older than I remember. I saw very few cops. Usually it was populated by cops who work at the nearby prisons. Not so much this time, which I found a little disappointing. I don't know, I hung around with them for 3 years. I was, working at a prison, so I'm used to them. So it was a little sad because the main street is not as good on the craft stores, but they did have a lot of interesting antiques and art vendors and homemade stuff vendors. So I had a lovely time just strolling it and finding stuff. And you can see one of my finds right there. I was in an antique store, and there she was, Moomin Mama, on a steel mug, or a tin mug. Camping mug, I guess I would call it. So there she is. And there's 3 different versions of her on that mug. There was only one mug. Of course I bought it, and I drank from it the rest of the week and was really happy with it. So I had an enormous amount of fun just seeing all the shops down Main. Well, down, I believe it's Tehachapi Boulevard. And just kind of roaming around and seeing the sights. And of course I had dinner at Red House that night, and I had an elder plate with cauliflower done as buffalo chicken, but no meat, just the cauliflower. And you dip it in ranch sauce. And some lovely pulled pork, and boy, it was lovely. I had a fabulous dinner. Went back to the hotel. The next day I saw patients. Meanwhile, because I had a suite, I brought hard-boiled eggs with me, courtesy of my husband. When I said I'm going to try to eat out of my hotel room because I think they're giving me a suite, I packed a lot of food. I packed my cold salmon soup that was left over, and I ate that while I was there. I took a bunch of keto chows and never even touched them, but I took the makings of egg salad. That is, I made up everything that you add to the eggs and put it in a container and then brought a bunch of hard-boiled eggs. So I ended up making the egg salad Thursday afternoon. So I was eating that. I brought up my pint jar of iced coffee, and I brought the makings for more iced coffee. And I brought up my iced tea, and I made more of that. I mean, I just had a ripping good time cooking in my little kitchen, and I did a lot of the recipes that are included in this week's episode show notes. So I actually didn't eat out a lot. I really just kept going home because the food was so good. Kept going back to my lovely little suite. On top of it, they gave me an accessible, a handicapped accessible suite. Disabled accessible? All right. At any rate, I wasn't expecting that. And I said, I don't know why this keeps happening to me. That's the second Marriott in a row that's done that. I think it's because I'm using a senior rate when I prepay. And they're assuming that means I need bars in my shower. So it was very weird to say, they said, well, what brings you here? And they're looking at me funny. And I said, I'm in the race. And the two women behind the counter looked at each other and said, you have an ADA suite. And I said, I don't need that. And they gave it to me anyway. Well, let me tell you, that was fine. They had a lot of them, and they were by no means full. So no guilt there. It did make certain things easier, I must admit. There is something about aging where it is nice to be able to hold on when you're standing up in a shower sometimes, particularly if you just ran a 3-mile race and your legs are killing you and you're out of breath. But I'm just saying. So, it was really nice working in that suite. Now, the other thing that happened was on Thursday, I started to binge season 4 of Bridgerton. Yes, I did. And I loved it. It got a little slow. It's the Benedict story from the Julia Quinn novels. It does get a little slow. There wasn't quite enough narrative. Oh, Minerva joins me, jumping in my lap. But I did enjoy it, and I did binge that Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to get through all 8 hours. And also I watched The Big Fight, Asterix, which you just have to see it. It's a sort of 3D animation. And Asterix, if you're not in America, right away you know what I'm talking about. Americans aren't keyed into Asterix nearly enough. It was hilarious. The boys came Saturday afternoon, and we watched the Asterix thing together and went out to Red House, of course. But before that, on Friday I saw patients and just ate in because I had so much food. And I also had my homemade bread, I should say, and I was eating that with the salmon soup and with the egg salad on it. Ooh la la. And Saturday evening, the boys arrived, and we went out to Red House. We watched Asterix. Before that, I wandered all over the Mountain Festival in Tehachapi, which is really in 2 locations. One by the old train station museum on the main drag, Tehachapi Boulevard, and one up in Phillips Central Park, I think it's called. And that's where I found my beautiful feather. So now I am home. And you can see, if you go down the show notes after that, the community resources that I love. And you can also see on my calendar my next break, and I am living for it, will be for my birthday and Labor Day. So I will have the 4th through the 7th of September off. And I am deeply looking forward to that. And hopefully I will use that to update what we know about CFR 12, and that should be great. Again, you can see my upcoming races, but also on that calendar you can see CFR 12 on November 7th, 2026. Minerva gets the last word. Minerva's last word is a picture of Captain in her broken position. Captain has a habit of lying down in some of the craziest positions available to anybody with a spine, and we're kind of used to it, but Minerva finds it a little freaky, So Minerva's last word would be, Mom went away for a long weekend and look what happened. The dog got broken. Minerva got a little broken too. She refused to talk to me on the cat cam, even though I did see her. Didn't you? Yes, what was that? Thursday or Friday night? I did see her eating, and I was facing her in the camera talking, and she looked a little startled and then basically ignored me while she stuffed her beautiful face. But when I came home, she was sitting in the back bedroom, and she waited. She did not come to the front door when she heard me. I walked in the back bedroom, and she screamed at me. And she has been screaming at me, that was yesterday, ever since. But she keeps jumping in my lap and trying to cuddle me. And everywhere I go, she's been next to me. And she woke me up twice last night in the middle of the night just to cuddle with me and purr under my chin, so that I would understand that I really shouldn't leave her for 3.5 days at a stretch this way. She has also tried to bite me today when my petting did displease her. But I think Minerva thinks that everything that goes wrong in this world goes wrong when I go away for more than a few hours. And I think her ultimate proof is a picture of the dog broken on the floor there. So Minerva wants you to know that if you are in a community, your presence there helps the well-being of all the individuals in the community, even if you think, as Minerva does, they're not as important, like, dogs, for example. But Minerva would like you to know that your community needs you and loves you, and needs to know where you are, and holds you responsible for broken dogs. Because when we work for the good of the community, we are serving the good of the individual as well. Having said that, everybody stay safe. Take care of each other. I'm back. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.